Hello, my name's Kazim. And I'm a MCIPD Qualified HR Professional, 20 years experience as a HR generalist, covering roles, general roles covering recruitment, training, compensation and benefits and reward. So basically I've had sort of hundreds, maybe even thousands of CVs put in front of me, and I've been evaluating them and inviting people to interview and selecting them and going through selection process with managers. So I have a very good overall view of what makes a good CV and what makes it shortlistable. So what I do now is I will evaluate CVs for people who want that. Typically you'd be somebody who was trying to get an interview for a job and perhaps had been failing, or was trying to change career or something, which required you to have a bit more of a more effective CV. So what I would do once you'd ordered the CV is I would ask you for a copy of your CV, and probably to get you to answer a few questions. And one of the questions I've definitely asked you would be to supply 2 or 3 job titles or links to jobs that you would actually ordinarily be applying for, so I can see what your target roles are, so I can see really how well your CV is matched to the sort of your target sort of roles. So and then what I would be advising you on are various things to optimize your CV for that. Some of those could be things changing the CV, adding in certain information, taking out certain information. It may also be a realistic assessment. You may need to develop some extra skills to actually be considered a serious applicant for the kind of roles that you're applying for. So there would always be some constructive advice. Sort of things I'll be looking at are really whether it's fast acting. Recruiters these days are time pressurized, and your CV's got to make an instant impact. So I'll look through and check that I think it's doing that. If it's not, I'll identify the problem and I'll make a recommendation. Yeah, that's the sort of thing I would do. The other thing I'll be looking at is your personal profile. That's a very important thing. Recruiters look at that immediately to get a quick summary of who you are and the sort of skills you have, and they might not go much further than that. So you've got to make sure the first third of your CV really says everything you need it to say. I'll look at red flags, just see if there's any deal breakers that will immediately turn the recruiter off, and then on this occasion there weren't any. I'll look at how well you present yourself as an effective performer. These days it's very competitive, and the employers are looking for people who can achieve results. So I'll talk about that. Make sure that you're presenting your information in a really high-powered format. I then specifically answer the question of whether it's your experience in education is suited to your target roles. There was no problems in this particular CV that I was reviewing. I'll once again look about whether the candidate can hit the ground running. It's always a big factor in these sort of pressurized environments. Obviously they want the right person. A lot of the time they want people who can hit the ground running because they're usually under pressure. And I'll look at the layout and the structure and give some recommendations and advice on that. This is one format in which I could deliver it, which is just like a sort of A4 format sort of report. The other way I can deliver it, and which I have done, is like this, which is much more where I use the word comment system and just comment, so you can actually look at the CV in process. So in here I've been talking about the profile, what needs to be changed there. I can look at the experience and skills section and write specific comments about it, that perhaps I need to put it in a much more high-powered format with smart objectives and achievements and things. Pointed out a few things there. Further down to the work experience, I've given some idea of how to perhaps restructure this area in a more effective way. But the idea is you can then see it in the context of the CV, which may make it easier for you to process the feedback. Education, I've given them some structured advice on how to change that. Key attributes, I've gone through that sort of section and talked about the interest as well. And I always say not to overlook this section, because there's a lot of research which sort of says now that employers really look at this to help to assess your sort of cultural fit, and cultural fit is a very key thing now. Your hobbies and interests, whether you like the same sort of activities as people in the company, rightly or wrongly, is being used as an indicator of suitability to the post. So there's various things like that that I look at. Thank you.